Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think first, just of all the panelists, if you could introduce yourself and maybe a short bit of what you're working on.
My name is Reyna, Chicas. I work with Mi Primer Bitcoin, or My First Bitcoin, in the education department. I work as a teacher lead, and we are all the way from El Salvador here to share our experience.
Yeah, so exciting.
Hey everyone, my name's Nifty. I run a program called Base 58, which is a Bitcoin developer education initiative. We do online courses to teach developers about how Bitcoin works at the protocol level. We just launched our second online class on Udemy a few weeks ago. Talks about how crypto works, so teaching people how to make elliptic curve signatures, etc. I also run an in-person game called the Bitcoin LARP, which I don't think we're doing one here, but it's a pretty fun in-person game where you get to touch Bitcoin and kind of walk through how the protocol works in person, which is fun.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe. I founded Bitpolito 4 years ago. Bitpolito is a student group in Polytechnic of Turin. We basically do education and research and development into the Bitcoin area. I got my degree last October, so I finished my path in the university, and now I am looking to find my Bitcoin job. So yeah, that's it.
Hi everyone, I'm not Harsh. I will start with that. Your firm is bot, and I thank you, Harsh, for that. I'm Salvatore. I'm also one of the co-founder of Bitpolito with Giorgio and Gabriela, that is not here. And I'm a cybersecurity consultant and orange pilling people. I'm an educator. In the past 7 years, I orange pilled a lot of people. And now with Bitpolito and with partners, our claim is to orange pilling every university in Europe, in the world, providing our know-how that we acquired in the last 4 years, offer this know-how to the community, to the Bitcoin community, and to the young generation. So that's it.
Thank you. That's perfect. And my name is Hough. I'm in my third year of college now, studying Bitcoin, and also the project lead at Generation Bitcoin, which is focused on education and jobs for younger generations. Okay, so let's get started. So, Reyna, I think at the very beginning, to preface this discussion, what are some barriers to entry that you're seeing from young students, younger generations, in learning about Bitcoin, learning about money, energy, just coming into this space?
Yeah, I will say, well, let's say younger generations, maybe now, and we're trying to work on that, would be some resources, right? Like extra resources that are adapted for kids. We could say that is maybe a barrier, but there is a solution for that. We can just create it. I think then when it comes to teenagers, and I'm talking about my experience, let's say in Latin America, is also, our level of public education. Like we are starting definitely from zero. Like we have no knowledge of financial education or anything. So then is that mindset sometimes, even with the parents, that they think that maybe they don't need this. And it's not just about finding, new ways to teach, but it's also, finding these, old generations principles or, the prejudices that they have. So that could be sometimes a barrier because a kid also look after, your teachers or your parents. So basically the first ones that we need to educate are the educators that are going there to schools instead of, just kids, and then we are not educating ourselves.
That's so spot on. And I guess I'll turn over to Gio and Salvatore. In Italy, what does it look like? Or do you have a financial literacy, economic literacy curriculum, or what are you seeing as pain points, problems for young students there?
Yeah, I don't know. We are doing Bitcoin education in the last 4 years. We started in three people, and then there's nothing about financial education, Bitcoin education. There were no education at all. We are in a engineering school, so we basically just work on the engineering stuff. We don't consider any education in the financial and economical world. So we are trying to let some new engineers understand better what can be this, what can Bitcoin significate for them. And but also in the economical school universities in Turin, but in all in Italy, there's no education in matter of Austrian economics or stuff like that. So there's no kind of good economics education. So we are trying to do so also with the other universities. It's kind of a difficult thing to do because there's a lot of teachers and professors in general that don't like these topics, or basically they don't know these topics. So that's not easy to do also a debate, but we are working on it and we are trying to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Nifty, so you are just a master educator. You have courses, workshops, conferences. I'm curious, what in your experience, talking to different people, is the most efficient educational tool? Or, maybe it's different. There's not one answer, but love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think so when you're trying to teach people about something new, and I think one of the problems with Bitcoin is that it is such a new thing. There's nothing else in most people's experience that you can relate it back to. It's not like we've invented a new way of, I don't know, sending a message across the internet or something. It's not like there's something in most people's lives that it's easy to tell them. It's a whole new thing that they have to learn, right? I think this is the thing that kind of everyone on this panel is experiencing. You were mentioning earlier about how, you have to educate the educators, right? We're still at that phase in education where you're trying to get almost that front line of people up to speed so that they can go and spread it to the next series of people, etc. So for me, it's kind of an interesting time to be in Bitcoin education because I am, I'm trying, I think, to be that source for that front line of educators to some extent. The thing that gets across, whether you're trying to explain a new topic to someone who is, or, is looking to help spread it even further, or even, just kind of like a student, etc. The thing that helps the most, and I think this is true across any new thing that you're teaching, is going to be having the best analogies, if that makes sense. The most powerful thing that you can give someone is a good analogy. And I think when you look out across Bitcoin, there's plenty of analogies out there, but they're all, I would say, varying quality. And sounds kind of funny, but when you're explaining Lightning to someone, the analogy you choose matters. Because if you pick the right one, you can I sort of think of where you're going, the actual way something works is the goal or the destination. And it's kind of like having a microscope, how good of a picture can you give someone, right? Okay, now I'm gonna use an analogy. So I kind of think of education, I think about trying to convey difficult, complex topics to people, almost like the resolution of a television, right? We started off with 480p, and then there's 720, now there's 1080, 4K, right? So there's all these resolutions of a video or a picture. And the higher the resolution, the better picture you're going to get. You're going to see more, you're maybe going to understand more. But how much, so then you've got let's say really understanding Bitcoin, let's say that's an 8K ultra high definition, whatever. In order to get to the point where you have that kind of picture or view of how anything in Bitcoin works, at least on the technical level, right? Because I really work on how does it work on a technical side. In order to get there, you almost need to, you're working with bandwidth, right? How clear of a picture can you send really depends on how much information that other person can receive, right? So when you're trying to give someone a picture of Bitcoin, you kind of have to figure out okay, how can the better analogy lets you convey a clearer picture with less bandwidth, if that makes sense. So you can get a more detailed understanding to the person that you're trying to reach with way less almost amount of information that they have to consume or whatever. You almost can compact a really clear picture in the right analogy. Whereas if you get a wrong analogy, you end up looking at a 420, 480p thing. It's not a very good picture. People still have a lot of questions and you're struggling to get them a clearer picture. Whereas if you have the right analogy when you're trying to explain something, it's incredible how quickly you can get them to really seeing how it is. And the benefit of being able to get someone where they're really seeing and understanding the clearest picture that there is that I find that to be the most inspiring thing for new people. Because as soon as they start kind of understanding how it is, learning new things is self-reinforcing. It's exciting. You get animated. The other thing I find whenever people really start understanding it, they start to feel empowered and they get excited. They start, like, a good educator, like if you've done your job, I think, in terms of conveying the right information, at the end of that analogy or whatever it is that you're going through or exercise, at the end of it, I think the big thing that at least tells me I've done a good job is just the amount of, like, new ideas or, like, feedback or just, like, excitement. Like, the conversation, I'll just, like, I'll do a thing and someone will be like, oh my God, there's, like, all these ways you could do it better. And here's all the things I learned, etc. Because it's like you've inspired that person to start looking around. They're, like, in a new room. They're, like, looking at the 4K picture. They have questions. They're making connections. They have new things to talk about, etc. I'm sorry, that was a long explanation about thing around education. But yeah, whenever I'm trying to explain something, I think you really those really good analogies are the ones that do the most work the fastest, and I think are really useful that you can hand to other people than to use to hand to others, kind of thing, like a bandwidth transmission.
No, I love that. And I think now whenever we all go talk to people about Bitcoin, we're all going to think, oh, do they now have a 4K resolution of understanding? And then go back if we didn't actually achieve that. So I think that's great. And now I'm going to have to put you all on the spot. What is your favorite analogy that you use when you're talking about Bitcoin?
I have one. My favorite one is I use it while I was playing Bitcoin to the high schools. We have a project to introducing Bitcoin to the high schools. So that's the example. So of you have two children and you have to divide one stick, and so how you can do it without the children cut their hands together. So I think that's good, because let the people understand how incentives works in game theory. Let people understand how the game theory works. It's kind of crazy, but let people understand how to don't get the children hurt each other. It's easy. So that's it.
Oh, that's good. Very practical.
My approach is quite different, but we use different approach. Also, I don't come up with a metaphor or a let's say analogy of Bitcoin, but I let the person that I am explaining Bitcoin figure out his own metaphor for Bitcoin. Of course, I can guide him in this path, but I want to put less as possible opinion of Bitcoin by myself in the path of understanding Bitcoin, in the other one path of understanding Bitcoin, because I think that the orange peeling process, the process of understanding Bitcoin is like in mythology is called the hero journey, and if you ever read I don't know the Divine Comedy, for example, is a book that was built on this hero journey, and the hero journey is a path where a person go in deep in the abyss, destroy himself and the structure of value that he think he serve, and rebuild himself with a different structure of value. And in my opinion, this is the first step. This is the journey that every Bitcoin done in the process of comprehend Bitcoin. And everyone always say that yes, when I understand Bitcoin, my head exploded because every vision of the world changed, and because this is what happened in the hero journey. And in this process, everyone, you said in a talk that everyone, if I remember correct, explain Bitcoin different way. For me, Bitcoin is digital gold. For him is, for Michael Saylor is energy condensed in bytes. And for everyone, let's everyone let's say judging Bitcoin changed the nature of Bitcoin. In the same time, Bitcoin remain itself, remain what is it, and I think it's kind of paradoxal, like the Heisenberg paradox in a more philosophical way. But
Oh, that's a great point. And I think John was in here earlier talking about education that empowers, not dictates. So it sounds like when you're talking, you don't want to dictate a metaphor. You'd rather kind of guide them. Okay, Reyna, putting you on the spot. Do you have an analogy or, I don't know, maybe something in the Mi Primera diploma, a way you explain a topic?
Yeah, for sure. So one of my favorite ones, because, Bitcoin Diploma, the first 5 chapters would basically want to explain what is money, why do we need money, what's the history of money, the evolution, inflation, and all of that. So when it comes, and this is, especially in Latin, is more about people, everybody associates money right away with fiat cash dollars. We have dollars in El Salvador. So to me, one of the favorite ones is because there are so many different options. El Salvador has US dollars as a currency, but there is a lot of trade still, like, in the coast area, the fishermen go to, enter the sea to just trade basically the fish with the big ships. That's how they pay them, and then they just get them goods and food and stuff. And then another one also is, there are a lot of jails, right? So in El Salvador, there are a lot of projects from religion and all of that they go, to jails, and they just, talk about Jesus and in jail, and how they basically, one of our teachers who used to be a minister explains, what this give value, value to this money. If I go to jail, they rather give me, like the option to pay them with little bags of coffee or cigarettes or this. You don't have to have this currency. It's worthless over there, right? So wherever you go, you just basically adapt. And then one analogy, and this was last night actually, don't take credit for it. It was one that we're basically building this, and I think it's everybody with all of the educational projects, like the government machine, right? Like with, basically the printing one, because that opened so many options, so people could read. Like it used to be something that it was just specific for, like church majors and things like that. So now people, like the common people, will be able to, as well, with all the resources on our levels we create, to be able to expand education and make it easier and affordable and accessible and easy to understand to everyone.
That's great. Thank you. So going back to the title of this panel, Onboarding New Generations, what is the catalyst for that in your views? Is it education? Is it utility? So I know you all at Plato focus a lot on the technical components, not as much on money. I'd love your opinions on what is next. What should we be talking to Gen Z, younger generations about? Anyone? Sorry. Yeah, anyone go.
Okay. I think that's 2 different ways. The first one is through education. It's for young people especially, because they need education in general. So you can introduce like a Trojan horse Bitcoin education into the normal education. We are doing it through the universities, and I think that's a good strategy to start Bitcoin education, just because students are really bored about the classical stuff they are doing in the university, and they don't like it. They don't like the teachers. They need some new people, some folk people that can introduce them something new, and so they really look for that. So I think that's the first way. The second way, of course, is utility. So if they need sats to do something, basically they need it, so they have to provide some sats. So that's of course the necessity is the best way probably, but for the young people, I think education, especially as I said, through official channels, let's say through university, through high schools, that entities where students already put their trust on. So in this way, I think that could be a great way to introduce.
I will also say, like, for the younger generations now, it's definitely games, and even more, digitalized more things. I mean, people is already, like you said, bored about, the current methods, just go to class and listen, and you are not understanding, and then you're just passing one grade, and the next year is another grade, but you feel like you haven't learned anything. I mean, just try to find the way, your group learns the best. So if your group is a 5-year-old, they're probably going to be more interested in just playing with a few games. I don't know if you guys have heard about the game Block Hunters. So they designed it and they thought that it's going to be for adults. And Emily today told me they were 5-year-old kids yesterday playing it and they got it. I was like, oh my God, it was hard for me. So that's what I mean. Like, we don't need to underestimate how smart these kids are these days. We can just, put a video game and it's a little app that they are running behind. That those resources are going to be very impactful for the youngest.
Super nifty too.
Yeah, I would say like one of the things, at least in terms of dev education and why I think it's such an important and necessary thing, is there's so much work that needs to be done in the open source Bitcoin community. Like just, working on the project that I work on, for example, we have way more work than we have hands. And at some point it's like we have way more work on Lightning and stuff that we want people, just across Lightning ecosystem or Bitcoin Core or like any technical project. Like there's still, I think, a gap in the amount of tools and things that we want to be able to do, and then the manpower, so to speak, that we have available to devote time to it. These are like highly specialized, trained kind of places that we need people with really deep understanding of how these protocols work and the ability to think and build kind of for themselves into it. So, it's like, why does education matter? It's like, well, it's because we've got work and we only people who really understand it are able to contribute. We want more people to be able to contribute. Bitcoin is open source. That means that, we need anyone across the world to be able to come in and feel like they can meaningfully contribute. And so having education, especially in a dev and technical sense, kind of my project, hopefully that makes it more accessible and something that more people can contribute to.
For me, we need to just listen the generation that we aim to bring inside Bitcoin space, because especially every generation, okay, but especially this generation is not listen, and otherwise is more in the path of this generation. Every step is already placed by someone else, so we need to self-discovery through the discovering of Bitcoin, and let's the young generation take their own place in our industries, in our world, in our Bitcoin world. And of course we can provide education. We need to provide education, more education. We need to go where the young generation is, instead of waiting them to join us, because they never will join us if we don't will go where they are. So that's my take.
No, that's a great point of listening. And Giorgio, did you have something to add? Oh, perfect. So on the theme of listening, you all talk to students, learners every day. What is the feedback that you're hearing?
Well, so far we have had a good feedback. I'm happy with that. But I think it's also what you said also, like sort of include them more. I think when we have activities that they can participate among them and they don't feel like overseen or heard or like I'm doing something wrong. Because unfortunately, school system thinks like what the teacher says, that's the rule. But just let them make mistakes. So no, that's the way that you work. And that, I think it's a good feedback. If they feel part of something, like if they feel included, or even tell them, okay, what did you like, what you didn't like, what do you think it would be better, then that helps. So that's the feedback that sometimes we get, like, yeah, this is fun, right? Especially if you start a class with a fun game or of an activity, then it doesn't set their minds to, oh, this is another class that is going to be super boring. Like, if you just start at least 2 or 3, and then when the hard part comes in, then they're happy with it. Like, they're like, okay, yeah, it's like we interact a little bit, right?
That's great.
I think the feedback that I get, especially from like the LARP game in particular, but technical classes as well, is that it's working. Like my goal is to be able to, like I said, kind of at the beginning, give people this clearer picture of how Bitcoin works, and that would, enable them to kind of look around and better see what's happening. I did a LARP on Saturday in Argentina as part of the Bitcoin Plus Plus conference that I run. And one of the people who was there, she works at HRF. She's not really a technical person. She's back home now, and she's a LARP. She had a lot of fun. She learned a lot. And I just got a text from her today that was saying, hey, I went to a local dev meetup, and all of a sudden, these conversations that I've been listening to and wanting to participate in such a long time, I showed up, and all of a sudden, like, I could participate more. Like, I understood what people were talking to. Like, that resolution, that picture, all of a sudden was much clearer, and she just, so it's that feeling of like empowerment. So it's really cool to take, especially for me, people that like maybe don't see themselves as technical, and they'll come through one of the like exercises or classes that I've got, and then they go back into their norm like community that they've been participating in, and all of a sudden they'll start getting feedback from other people that they're too technical, or like they've ascended to a level of technicality that other people haven't quite reached yet, or whatever, or maybe they're more technical than they were. So that's the feedback I'm hearing, and it's really great. It's just really exciting.
Okay, we as Bitpolito, we talk mostly with engineers, so most frequently asked questions are what if this happens, what if these other things happen, etc. So it's kind of an engineering approach, so that's cool because we are engineers too, so that's fine. We can talk about that for hours. And but then there's another approach, because Polytechnic of Turin, it's also a design school. For example, we have a huge team that is working on design, on marketing. Some of the whole members of the team are now working on the Bitcoin marketing and helping Bitcoin companies to do marketing, basically communication. So there's also this approach, and they say, okay, that's Bitcoin, but it's now I understood what it is, but before I was like, it's like are you drug dealers? Are you drug dealers or stuff like that? Because in the communication, it is most of the time like, or for traders or for drug dealers, and that's it. But this world is changing. Communication is getting better, I think so. And so that's the second reaction probably. And the third one is as I said before, we are working with the high schools, and so these are young people, young guys, and most of them sleep probably when I go to explain Bitcoin, because they are overwhelmed from all the stuff they are doing in the high schools, of course. But some of them are pretty interested, and they asked for task, and that's cool. They ask what I can do to test Bitcoin, what I can do to run Bitcoin. You said I should have a node, but how I can do it? Where's the code? So it's a good approach, because it's the best way to learn, to practice, basically. And so I was 2 days ago in Italy in a high school explaining Bitcoin. It was a technical high school, and a few guys asked me, as I said, how they can run your whole node and how they can work, because they say I'm getting bored here in the high school. The lectures are boring and so on. And so what can I do to get a Bitcoin job? And so I introduced them, for example, Bitcoiner's Job and all this platform, and I say, and I told them, guys, you don't have to move around. You can work remotely. You can participate in open source projects. You don't need to have hard skills in programming. You can understand it, get these hard skills through the path. But you can start, for example, just responding to some issues or general stuff, documentation and so on. But you can start now. and you don't have to ask permissions to anyone. You can start now. So I think that's great.
I would love it if you all could give to those watching, the audience, like a 1-sentence tangible tip on how to onboard the next generation, just like your best learned experience.
Well, I will say, well, definitely be patient, be humble. And we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different stories. This very, cheesy, but just sort of put yourself, into that. If you're talking to a young guy, think, how were you when you were younger? Like, what do you expect to hear from an adult that you want to learn something? And this generation with social media and technology, they are way different as well, especially if you're from the millennials. So just, be yourself and be real, be honest with them, but also just be humble and try to listen to the questions. If you don't know the answer, don't lie. Don't lie. Just you know what, I don't know that, but I'll get back to you. Yeah.
I think mine would be show, don't tell.
I think the best tip is to be passionate, as Reyna said, because passion can be felt by the people. So if you are passionate about something, you can talk me an hour about this battle, and I will listen to you. So be patient and try to focus on the signal and ignore all the rest.
My suggestion will be don't project your belief on Bitcoin to the counterpart, but let's the person that you're talking about Bitcoin face every step by his own foot. So that's it. Everyone is alone in the rabbit hole. So
Thank you so much, Reyna, Nifty, Gio, and Salvatore. This was such a nice panel, and thank you for everything you shared.